hear ye, history hotties. Gather around for a tale of ambition, obsession, bad decisions, and a woman who said put a crown on it before Beyonce made it cool. That's right, we are talking about the next in the series of Henry VIII's wives, the one, the only, Anne Boleyn. Now, was Anne Boleyn a cunning temptress, a religious revolutionary, a feminist icon, or just a girl who dared to be interesting in a man's world, and who paid the ultimate sacrifice? Let's gossip like we're ladies in waiting, peeking through velvet curtains with goblets of mead and fanfuls of secrets. So our girl Anne Boleyn wasn't born with a crown. Girl hustled for it. She was born in either 1501 or 1507. Honestly, the Tudor timelines are the original gaslighters, and it's something that I think about a little too often. Like, why don't we know? That's a whole 6 years. It's weird if you think about it. Just 6 years missing where she may or may not have been alive. I don't know. But back to the point, Anne is the daughter of Thomas Boleyn, who was the courtier extraordinaire, and Elizabeth Howard. Basically, they weren't peasants, but they weren't exactly the Kardashians of court either. They were social climbers with ambition in their DNA. And if the last name Howard rings bells when it comes to Henry VIII, 2 points to the house of your choice. So Annie Girl was sent to the Netherlands and France to serve in fancy courts and pick up some continental charm. She learned the good stuff: poetry, politics, courtly flirtation, and how to throw shade en français. When she came back to England, she was giving full dark feminine energy. She wasn't the traditional English rose. She was more like a hot Catholic schoolgirl turned skeptical evangelical. Add in her long neck, sharp wit, and air of mystery, and the court immediately clocked that girl. They would be dropping into her DMs immediately. She also didn't speak much English, which, no shit, she lived in France for most of her life. But can you imagine the gossip? Who does this French-talking, forward-fashion mystery girl think she is? And the rumor mill is a beautiful thing, because the things people came up with are just great. So some of the rumors about Anne included that she may have a sixth finger, she had a small mole, and then a couple of other imperfections. There was a ton of propaganda calling Anne a witch, and used the thought of these imperfections or marks to be witches' marks. Totally off thought. Maybe we'll have to do an entire episode on the Salem witch trial just so I can have more time to talk about witches' marks, because I didn't know about them, and that means somebody else doesn't know about them, and so I'm going to horrify you the way it horrified me. Anyways, back to this. Anne was so powerful that they had to invent deformities to explain her power, because God forbid she's just a baddie with ambition. So how did Anne go from mysterious court girl to Queen of England? Enter Henry VIII. He has a big forehead, big feelings, and a big need for a son. Anne had to watch her sister Mary get tossed aside from being Henry's mistress and said, couldn't be me. Which, spoiler alert for things to come, apparently Henry really liked bedoinking people in Anne's family. And her sister, her cousin, But this seduction baddie Anne made him chase her for 7 years. That is longer than most celebrity marriages nowadays. Am I right? Ha ha ha. Anyways, he wrote her steamy love letters, gave her titles, sent her expensive gifts, and she said, cute, but no. She told him, if you want me, you better have a crown. Not just mistress perks. I want the throne, and we love a girl who knows what she wants and isn't afraid to ask for it. And Henry did it. In a move so dramatic it deserves its own Netflix special, Henry decided to get a divorce from Catherine of Aragon. But don't get me wrong, this wasn't some love story. It was a full-on political and religious rebrand. So the TLDR version, Henry was big mad because his wife, Catherine of Aragon, which if you haven't done so already, make sure you listen to our episode about that absolute wildfire. It's good and gives some backup information for this. So she wasn't giving him a male heir, and he decided he wanted a divorce. But since divorce wasn't exactly a vibe in the Catholic Church at the time, he tried to pull a fast one and claimed the marriage was cursed because she used to be married to his brother. Yes, I said that right. She used to be married to his brother. It's a whole thing. I know. He begged for the Pope to annul the marriage, but Catherine was like, yeah, absolutely not, and called her family, the Holy Roman Empire, to block it. So now the Pope's like, yeah, I'm gonna go with no, because he was scared of Catherine's nephew. Cue several awkward church emails, desperate envoys, Henry rage quitting Catholicism, because he basically created his own church, like a medieval version of, if you don't let me in your treehouse, I'll build my own. And then, boom, Church of England, marriage annulled, Anne Boleyn crowned, and the Pope was left on red. Like, you've heard of girls breaking up bands before, but Anne full-on broke up Rome. Let's just pause for that for a second. Anne is now queen, but she wasn't a passive royal wife. She was heavily involved in church and politics. She supported the religious reform and wanted the Bible in English. And she just had so many opinions on everything, which, spoiler alert, men did not love. She even got Cardinal Wolsey removed from power. If Anne had a burn book, Wolsey would have a whole thread all to himself. Anne saw him as a major roadblock in her being able to become queen sooner. And in case you were curious like me because you watched the Tudors and didn't look it up, yes, Wolsey died in prison. No, he didn't kill himself. He had been extremely ill for some time and died before his execution. I know, the scene in Tudors is so much better, but it is what it is. Well, all of this is going down. Anne got pregnant. Henry was sure it was going to be a boy, because clearly it had to be. He was in the right by leaving Rome and his wife for his young French bride, right? Right? Well, plot twist, it was a girl. But not just any girl, girly. The girl? Yeah, that was Queen Elizabeth I. The one who ruled England for 44 years and never got married because she saw what happened to her mom and swore to be the end of the Tudor line. Yeah, talk about the ultimate revenge long game. So now after Elizabeth's birth in 1533, Anne had a few miscarriages. And instead of being the loving partner that sticks by his woman while she goes through one of the hardest things a woman can go through, Henry stayed true to himself and started getting that new girl at court itch. Enter Jane Seymour, the pick-me, I'm not like other girls energy personified. Anne's enemies, especially Thomas Crowley, who was Henry's right-hand fixer, saw an opening. Anne had ruffled feathers, she had made enemies, she had opinions, and it didn't flatter enough egos, so they came for her. Anne was accused of adultery with multiple men, including her own brother George Boleyn. Like, the Tudors just loved to say, let's make this as gross and unbelievable as possible. Like, why are you the way that you are? The charges were fake, of course, but it didn't matter. This was a royal breakup, not a real trial. Anne was arrested and tried for treason, adultery, incest, and she was found guilty because of course she was. And anyways, Henry had already picked out his new wife. It's just so much easier to legally kill your wife than go through a divorce, is what I assume was going through Henry's head at the time. Anne's brother and the other men were executed before her, and then Anne was taken to the scaffold. She gave a calm, dignified speech and prayed for the king. Henry, in a vile, I'm such a nice guy move, brought a French swordman instead of an English axeman. This is because it was supposedly quicker to the axe to have the sword, but okay, congratulations, Henry, you're still the worst. Anne was executed on May 19th of 1536. She believed until the very end that Henry might pardon her. Either she truly loved him, or she just believed in her own myth too much. Or maybe, just maybe, she thought her legacy would outlive her. And of course we know that's right. Anne Boleyn's legacy is juicy and complex and still hotly debated, even today. Some say she was a homewrecker, others say she was a reformer, a martyr, a manipulator, and most importantly, a feminist before feminism had a name. But the rumors never really stopped that she was a witch, that she seduced Henry with dark magic, that she had bewitched him into divorcing Catherine. Which, is any of that really a crime? Sounds like she was just a baddie. Shakespeare didn't bother to write about Anne, and Elizabeth almost never mentioned her mother by name. However, it is clear that Elizabeth never forgot her mother. She kept Anne's portrait, even though almost all of them had been destroyed, and she wore a ring with her mother's face inside of it. A quiet homage, In a queenly revenge, Henry killed her mom and tried so hard to erase her legacy. So she decided that she would kill his line. Anne was too loud, too smart, too bold for her time, and they silenced her, even attempting to erase her from history. And if it wasn't for Elizabeth, she very well may have been erased. Hot take? I believe there was another wife of Henry that got erased from history, but that's just my conspiracy theory brain. So what's the moral of Anne Boleyn's story? When a woman dares to be smart, opinionated, and sexually autonomous in a world built for fragile men, she either rewrites history or gets executed. Or, in Anne's case, both. If Anne Boleyn were alive today, she'd have a reality TV show, and she would be the villain that everyone secretly loved. Sharp-tongued, ambitious, maybe a little problematic, but undeniably unforgettable. That's all for today, my scandal-loving nobles. Go forth, spill the tea, plot coups, and never apologize for being too much. Until next time, my fellow history gossipers, stay scandalous.